Chapter 1. Las Cuevitas Ranch, Rio Grande Valley, Texas, winter 1915. Fabriciano Garcia could feel every muscle in his body after his long day herding cattle on his boss's ranch. He wasn't a big man. He stood just a hair under 5'7" and weighed 140 pounds, maybe 135 after a long day working in the hot South Texas sun. His skin was dark, not just from the sun, but from his Mexican Indian bloodline. But he still had traces of the Spanish influence in his softer features. Ranching was a hard way of life. Dios mío, Fabriciano had known this when he chose it. But he hadn't planned on supporting a family on a farmhand's wages. He and Manuela got by just fine. But when Child 1 and Child 2 came along, the money could never stretch far enough to cover their growing legs and feet. If it hadn't been for his father-in-law funneling a few extra dollars into his weekly pay, Fabriciano would have had to look for other work a long time ago. He dunked his dark brown hair into a bucket of water, then stood up straight, letting the cool liquid spill down his face and neck. He knew this life was much better than being a gunslinger for hire. Then he sat on an old barrel and picked up where he left off reading Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, a habit he'd picked up as a child when he was taught English by the Sisters and Oblates of Mary Immaculate. No sooner had he flipped his book open, the sound of thundering hooves disrupted his end-of-the-day routine. He peered his head out from the barn and looked past the adjacent courtyard toward the two-story hacienda. He caught sight of the riders. A cold chill rolled down his back. The appearance of rangers meant trouble. The unease etched on the faces of the others made it clear they shared Fabriciano's thoughts. His people called them Rinches. The white people called them the Texas Rangers. But it didn't matter what language they were called out in. To him and his people, these were bad men with bad intentions. His stomach tightened as he saw his father-in-law, Casimiro Munoz, the ranch foreman, along with the ranch owner, Victoriano Gonzalez, step out from the hacienda to meet the riders. He knew they wanted no trouble from these rangers, as they had been known to be quick to use lethal force to prove their point, especially on the Spanish-speaking population that lived on the northern side of the border. He knew rangers meant trouble. They all knew. And he knew the rangers were working for a rich and powerful cattle rancher named William Johnson, and Johnson wanted Victoriano Gonzalez's land. Fabriciano knew Victoriano would never part with the land, as his family had turned dirt and sagebrush into a fertile, successful ranch. And he now controlled 200 miles square of land that straddled the Rio Grande on both sides of the river. Fabriciano rolled his fingers on the side of the building while keeping an eye on the approaching riders. His hands felt the leather holster of his father-in-law's Schofield Model 3 .45 Colt revolver that hung on a heavy iron nail just inside the barn. He removed the pistol from its holster and held it tightly in his grip. Then his eyes trained on the Gonzalez butler, Jose, standing in the doorway of the hacienda, with one hand leaning on the doorframe and the other hidden inside. Fabriciano knew the crafty old butler always kept his shotgun leaning by the front door. The Rio Grande was a dangerous place these days, and Jose never answered the door without the shotgun at close reach. He swallowed nervously as the four rangers sat on their mounts in the courtyard of the main hacienda on Las Cuevitas Ranch. The leader of the four, Captain Benjamin Johnson, slapped his hat on the side of his pants, sending a plume of trail dust up and out. He kneed his horse, and the steed stepped closer to Victoriano. He then spit out his chaw by the man's boot.
"Victor, I bring news from my father, the colonel, and my uncle." "Please, Captain."
Victoriano forced a smile.
"Dismount and water your horses and join us for dinner. We can discuss this after we have consumed a hot meal and shared a nice glass of sherry." "No, sir,"
Johnson barked as he pulled out a satchel from inside his dusty long jacket.